welcome Aoife to Verse.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
It's so great to have you here. I know you've had a very busy year. 8 short months ago, you released an album, All My Friends. It's an epic, ambitious album that's orchestral. I would add that it's cinematic in scope, but it's really born out of one woman's story, Carrie Chapman Catt. So who was Carrie Chapman Catt, and what inspired you to build a whole song suite around it?
It's not, I wouldn't say it's born out of one woman's story. I feel like it's born out of the struggle of all women in that time period. And Carrie Chapman Catt is was the kind of the character who I kind of grasped on to really build a whole world around, including my own experience and really trying to make it sort of more of a universal story. She was one of many leaders in the suffrage movement, the founder or the president of the National Women's Suffrage Association, one of the founders of the League of Women Voters. And one of the reasons why I ended up focusing on her in this project was that there was a ton of material that I could find, speeches, letters that she had written, and her words just really spoke to me, and it seemed like a fun way to, when I wrote this music, I wasn't thinking of it as being an album in the first place. It was really just songs. The first 5 songs were written first for an orchestral commission, so I was never imagining having to kind of talk about it as much as I've done now that I've put it out as an album. But I really am happy that I ended up focusing on her music, because it opened up just sort of a bunch of different doors.
So was the process of writing the songs different than it would normally be for you because you had a real live historical figure to work with, but also some really major themes?
Some major themes, yes. And I think that something that I've talked a lot about when discussing this record is that in no way is this an academic piece or put forward as something to sort of, make sure everything is accurate historically. It's really a folk album. It's an album of songs and it's stories, but in going back and sort of making up this character who is obviously a real character, I did have to put my own words into her mouth and sort of put my own spin on her story, if that makes sense.
Right.
Very different than sitting down and writing any other album that I've ever written, obviously, because for the main thing that was different was that it was written first as a song cycle for orchestra and then sort of built around that to make the rest of the album.
Right. So the title song, All My Friends, which is nominated for Best American Roots Song, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Is really the centerpiece.
Yes.
So was that written as part of the original batch?
Yes, that was written as the original batch. And honestly, that first line, that kind of came to me before I'd just the all my friends will meet the end someday. And I wrote that actually quite a long time ago, just that one line. And I never really figured out what the song was about until I started working on this project. And then it all kind of burst into color for me of just imagining, I don't know, just the sort of lifelong circular struggle of women, of people, marginalized communities trying to sort of achieve what they can achieve in their own lifetime, and how obviously within your life not everything will get achieved, and there will be, setbacks and there will be advances, and just sort of how to kind of think of that as a circle. Right. And in All My Friends, the next couple of verses of that song unfold in really a specific setting where I imagined the suffragists marching in Tennessee as the sun was coming up over the fields, and thinking about how, they may or may not get this thing that they're fighting for. It very just as easily couldn't have happened that they got the 36th state, but they did. And I love singing that song. I love how that recording turned out, and I'm so honored that it was nominated.
You just performed with the National Symphony Orchestra at Kennedy Center just a month ago. The video really captures just how powerful that is. You're with several DC area choruses, the orchestra, and you're in the center of it all with this beautiful, delicate guitar. What was it like to perform that song in that venue at the pinnacle of an election that just really brought all of these issues to the fore?
It was intense. I mean, that was the end of October. I was on stage at the Kennedy Center. I've performed there several times, but this was obviously completely different. To be there in the sort of the stage behind me, there are 124 young people, members of 3 different choirs in DC, an 80-person orchestra, my little trio of bass and drums, it was very special, and it really felt like a big moment. And there felt that there was a lot of hope in the room that night. And I think we didn't know which way the election was going to go, and I got to do the song cycle again twice since the election has happened, and I feel that hope has not dimmed, and it still feels just as important as ever.
Right. So you tapped the San Francisco Girls Choir to record the album. I want to talk a little bit about just that whole logistical process. So maybe let's get into that right now. So you brought in your husband's group, the Knights, the Westerlies, which is a brass band, right?
A brass quartet.
Quartet in the San Francisco Girls Choir. This seems like such a cast of characters, such an immense crew of musicians. Talk to me a little bit about just how that all played out.
It again, because this piece was written really before it had the concept of like it becoming an album. I knew after maybe a couple of months, okay, let's record it. So when I first did the piece in Orlando in 2021, I had the bass player and drummer Alan Hampton and Griffin Goldsmith come into the studio at Full Sail University, and we tracked just the basic tracks like guitar, vocals, bass, and drums. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, at least we have that done. Now if we want to add to it, we have it to a click, we can give it to an orchestra or whatever. But the whole record, I mean, it was like 2 years before the record itself was done.
Right.
2.5 years, really. And many different studios, many different groups of people. Strings were recorded one place, brass one place, woodwinds another place. There's Sierra Hull plays mandolin on a track, Noam Pekelny plays banjo. The San Francisco Girls Choir recorded their choir parts at the very end. They were the last thing to go on the record right before it was finished in the spring of 2023. And yeah, it turned out better than I could have imagined.
So since releasing the album and you've been performing these songs live, you've performed with a lot of young women,
yes.
Right? A lot of girl groups. So you've been soaking in a lot of girl power this year. What have you learned from spending so much time with so many young women?
I mean, it's incredible. This piece in particular to me, when I wrote it and I knew I wanted choir to be on it, and there have been some orchestras who said, okay, well, can we have the adult choir? Like we have this great in-house adult choir, and they do a great job. And it's not really the same. I mean, there's something about the innocence of a young voice that has been really powerful to hear, just sort of that hope and that sort of untarnished, unjaded quality, vocal quality that I feel like really lends itself well to the music.
Right. So in light of the election and its outcome, what do you hope these young women that you've worked with or people in general take away from the lessons of this woman in Carrie Chapman and Catt and what she tried to do and succeeded at the time, but
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I've also had to think about a lot in doing this piece is that you have no idea what people feel when you're on stage with that many people. Like I can't speak to all of these girls or every single person in the orchestra's political affiliation or
right.
actual, so it's something that I've had to remember is that this piece and this whole movement was essentially a nonpartisan movement. I think getting up there and talking about the rights that women deserve to vote and to have their voices heard, that felt very it felt like such a strong statement to be making, and I felt like everybody was behind me on that, and I loved that. And I think what can we take away from that in the future is that there are things that we need to come together on, and hopefully democracy will continue to make itself known.
Right.
And we'll still be there in 4 years. That's the hope, yeah.
So you don't write songs to win awards, and yet this album has garnered a Best Folk Album. Congratulations on that as well. Folk music throughout our history has always sort of played an important role in our culture. How does it feel to get this recognition for this particular project?
It feels really special, especially because this project is almost hilariously non-commercial. I mean, it's like my last album, Age of Apathy. I remember when I made that, and that also had a nomination for Best Folk Album, which was incredible, and I was so grateful. And that felt more like, okay, this is an album that has some songs that are more like poppy or like with choruses that people can sing along to. All My Friends, I feel like, has 0 songs like that. It's just very, it's a very personal project, and I was shocked and very flattered that it was recognized in that way, because yes, this is definitely, anybody who's heard this album could not have thought that I was going for any sort of commercial. I don't know, like, it's just an album of sort of random heady songs about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, but that some people might say, like, why is she singing about this now? I don't know.
Right.
I'm flattered and really grateful, and I think that at its core, it is a folk album. It's an album, like I said, of songs and stories that can exist in this orchestral sphere, or can exist with me by myself, or can exist with a chorus singing them. I re-recorded the album with Hawktail, a chamber group, and a chamber grass group, I should say, like a little folk string trio. And we have a more folky version of the album that I love, and I've loved touring that way as well. And they're just folk songs, and I love singing them, and I hope that these stories continue to be told. And yeah, that's the best part.
I was able to see you perform those songs with Hawktail in Nashville recently, and that was my first real.
That was so fun at the AMAs.
Yeah, it was my first real experience with this music, and I've since spent some time with the album and seen the video of you with the National Symphony Orchestra, and it's just really incredible, especially the title song. It's sort of this gentle waltz, but yet when all these other musicians, fall in behind it, it just becomes this really magical, very powerful force. So you have played with orchestras, you've played in quartets with Sara Watkins and Sara Jarosz, you've performed with her. You seem to have sort of enjoyed, performing with a combination of musicians throughout your career. What do you gain from that in terms of growing as an artist, or just sort of like pushing yourself outside of what you're comfortable with?
I'm definitely a band person. I came up in bands. My band Crooked Still was my first band, sort of bluegrass, old-time traditional music string. First started as a string trio plus me, and then it ended up being a 5-piece band. I love making music with other people, and I always have, and I always will. And I also just love doing different things. I think that keeps it really exciting and really interesting, and collaborating is my favorite thing to do.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we're recording this right before Thanksgiving. It's the season to be grateful.
Yes.
We're so grateful you're an ASCAP member. What are you most grateful about ASCAP for in your life?
It's been so nice to actually connect with you guys personally in the last couple of months. I loved getting to do the panel at the AMAs, and just getting to have advocates for songwriters and people really who know the business inside and out, advocating for songwriters and the art of a song and the art of creating a song.
You're a songwriter. It's not an easy life. The riches it gives you, it comes in many, many forms. What are you most grateful about what you get to do for a living?
Oh gosh, well, the thing that makes me the happiest in terms of my career choice is that I get to see my friends so often and get to have these really deep musical connections and relationships, and we get to speak the same language. And I think about this a lot because I have a 7-year-old who's playing music. She plays the cello, but the reason why I want her to be a musician so much is because I love that I have that shared language with my friends, and I love that it's something I can do socially with people that I love. And I want her to be able to make friends through music and have her instrument and be able to jam, and she already does. She already is getting that, and I think that's the most special part of it.
Cool. So, girl power.
Yeah.
Tenfold.
Yeah, 100%.
Thank you, Aoife. I appreciate you, carving out some time.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And I know you brought your guitar.
I did, and I was just like, I'm always like ready just to start playing a song. So.
Yeah. So I don't know if you have a holiday song in your repertoire.
No, I think I got something.
Oh to show God's love and light. She bore to us a Savior when half spent was the night. Low our rose just sees the years coming as melody and song. It came to find me bright amid the cold of winter when half spent was the night.
Beautiful.
That's one of my favorite Christmas carols.
Oh, I don't even
Yeah.
know that one.
It's like an old German. It's like from a hymnal,
Oh,
so it has all
cool.
those weird chords, but it's
very
so beautiful.
Would you play All My Friends?
Yeah. Good.
All my friends, all my friends will meet the end someday. So I'll sing a song for them to guide them on their way through the violet heights and the Ogonos. My love feels heavy most days. All my friends, Thank you.